giver of life and all-powerful. Bless each and every one of us as we start our day. Bless us to make decisions for the betterment of everyone. Thank you for your generous and sharing love. Thank you for all the blessings that we had received in all our lives. Shed us the light of your wisdom that we might discover the truth of our realities. Give us the strength and knowledge that we may have the courage to rise from our falls. And lift up our body, heart, and soul wholeheartedly to you. Peace may shine among us, and your love set us free. Teach us to recognize your presence in every person, especially those who are suffering. Accompany us, Almighty Father, so that we may become bearers of hope to one another as we journey towards you. We ask for the intercession of the Blessed Mother. Amen. Hello again, everyone. Today is another fun-filled learning, so just stay comfortable, sit back, and relax. Today we're going to have a new lesson under Quarter 1, Module 2, and it is entitled Understanding Information. So I hope you just hang in there and let us continue learning. Let us begin by having these preliminaries. Access the class attendance sheet for the day. Make sure to answer the following through our Google Classroom. Make sure to submit your outputs on time. Visit our Facebook group page to important updates and announcements. Let us now start with our review. I want you to read all the words or phrases written inside the boxes. First, we have graphs, charts, tables. We have bold, print, italics, illustrations, index or indices. We also have headings, table of contents, subheadings, diagrams, glossaries, key or guide words. We have captions. We also have titles, and of course maps, timeline, and of course sidebars. Now, do you still remember what are these? What do you call these words? Yes, you are correct. This is what we call the different types of textual aids. Now to continue, let us have a short review of what we had discussed previously. What are textual aids? Textual aids are also called visual aids. They help readers do better understand the texts. They also help the writer in presenting complex information to a more understandable way to readers. Now, what are the purposes of textual aids? We have a few. First is to reproduce some major text materials in a visual or spatial format. It also aims to give an overview of important information. It is also to show relationships of different text elements. Next is to add numerical information to some given verbal data. It also provides a summary of the main points. And lastly, it also aims to provide visual variety on a certain page. Now, what is it? You are going to learn to get information using textual aids by analyzing them and interpreting them as well. Now, can you identify each one of them? So what do you call this one? This is an example of a glossary. And the next one, obviously it is an example of a table of contents. And then the last one, we have an example of indices. If you notice, These three textual aids have a lot of similarities. That's why it is not surprising that most of you, or most of us, are quite confused about it. So let us now discuss the similarities and differences of these three. So this is the point of their comparison. When it comes to the location in the book, a glossary can be found at the end. The index is also at the end of the book. And then the table of contents is found at the beginning of the book. What about the arrangement of information? Glossary and of course index are arranged alphabetically, but the table of contents is arranged according to page number. What about their description? Glossary supplies the definition of the word as used in context, references to related terms, and sometimes a pronunciation key, just like the dictionary. While the index, it is a list of names, places, things, and concepts discussed in the book and their corresponding page number. And then the last one, the table of contents, presents the title of each chapter, subtitles, and subsections, and their corresponding page number. Now I hope everything is clear to you, so you won't be confused anymore. Now here's more. These are other examples or illustrations of textual aids. Now, what are these? These are also what we call chart, which presents information in form of graphs, diagrams, or tables. Just like what I said, a graph shows the mathematical relationship between the sets of data and are one of type of chart, but not the only type of chart, which simply put, all graphs are charts, but not all charts are graphs. So if you notice, they almost look the same. A graph is a picture representation of one or more sets of information and how these visually relate to one another. Graphs help present data in a meaningful way. There are different types of graph. First is, of course, the line graph. It used to show a continuous data, displays a change in direction over time, and it can be used to forecast the results of data that is not yet gathered. The second kind of graph is a bar graph. It represents values with the use of bars of scaled length. It has two types, the horizontal and the vertical bar graphs. Next is a pie or circle graph. It presents data using circles that are divided into segments or categories which reflect the proportion of the variables concerning the whole. Last is it used best when comparing segments or categories up to 5 at least, with the whole being equivalent to 100%. The last one is the pictograph. It uses illustrations and drawings of the actual data being presented, and it uses legend for equivalency of data. Here's another additional information. Diagrams simplify and visually communicate the meaning of information. And there are different kinds of diagrams and their descriptions as well. First is a cycle diagram, which shows a process that has a continuous cycle. And then a pyramid, which shows a foundation-based relationships among things. And then radial, which shows the relationship between or among elements. Target show the steps being followed to reach a goal. And then the Venn diagram, which shows areas that overlap between or among elements, and it is useful when you want to compare certain things. Now here's another examples and illustrations of textual aids. First is the table. A table is a graphical device containing columns and rows, whether labeled or unlabeled. And then yes, it is a map, which is a symbolic representation of selected characteristics of a place, usually drawn by a cartographer, a person who draws a map on a flat surface. And then the last one is we have the timeline. What is a timeline? A timeline is a graphical representation of a list of events in chronological order. It typically uses a long bar labeled with dates paralleling it and usually contemporaneous events. Now, are you familiar with a linear and nonlinear text? I'm going to explain it to you by reading and analyzing the news report lead and the infographic of the news report below. Both reading materials offer the same information but in a different manner. Now, you are going to choose or identify which is easier to understand. So this is the first one and the second one. If you notice, they both offer the same information, which is all about the COVID-19 and the tally of cases here in the Philippines. So they have a different way, a different manner of showing the information. Now here, the first one is what we call a linear text. So what are linear texts? These are texts that are written traditionally without the aid of graphics. So look at that. There are no graphics or anything at all because it is like what it says, it is written traditionally. Then look at the second one. This is an example of what we call a nonlinear text. What are nonlinear texts? So, nonlinear texts are represented using kinds of graphic such as charts, graphs, and other figures. Now, you decide which is easier to understand. I think most of you will answer the one with the use of graphic representation. Now let's get to work. You are going to write your minute paper. Access the activity sheet for this minute paper on Google Classroom and answer the following questions, then submit your paper. So these are the questions. What is the most significant thing you have learned in this lesson? Is there anything you did not understand? How do textual aids help you understand the information to build your awareness during this pandemic? So remember these three questions. So you're just going to answer them and you are going to access the activity sheet or this minute paper on our Google Classroom. Just a few reminders before we go. Visit our Facebook group account for important updates and reminders. Access the activity sheets, answer them, and submit on time. Thank you again for watching. Do not forget to like and click to subscribe. Also, please leave your comment on the chat box with your name and your section so that I can keep track of your progress. Stay healthy and positive. Until next time, remember that we can learn together even when we are apart. Good day, everyone. See you in our next lesson.